It has been said that firefighters train for success and learn from tragedy. In Toronto, members of IAFF Local 3888 train for what to do when things go wrong. That's the purpose of the IAFF Fireground Survival Program. A vacant lot is all that remains today from an icy before dawn 6-alarm blaze that destroyed an historic building in downtown Toronto. It could have been worse, but on that freezing January morning, Toronto's Fireground Survival Training saved 2 firefighters from the blaze that destroyed the building.
We never know when that stuff can actually happen, and it can happen in a blink of an eye.
It was a huge fire. En route, the initial captain had already put in for a second alarm.
As we turned north on Yonge Street, we could see a 3-story structure on the east side fully involved.
Shortly after I got on scene, I increased it to a 3rd alarm. When the mayday came in, it wasn't really under control, but we had contained it. We had stopped the fire spreading to the exposure. We had a good handle on it that way. Everything was in place. It looked like we had a great handle on it. We were just going to sit back and surround and drown, and then it came in.
Mayday, mayday, mayday! Captain C-25, a burn from the roof of 333 into the fire building.
As I was rotating crews who were operating the hose lines, we had a short gust of smoke and they became obscured from my vision. I was close to the edge and I couldn't see anything, but I felt confident that if I took a step back, I'm moving away. But as it turns out, I had done a 180 instead of a 360. It seemed like a long fall. It was a lot of darkness, a lot of nothingness, and a lot of, what did you do?
We have a mayday checklist that we follow once the initial mayday comes in, and you have it memorized and all the crews are trained in it. So when it does happen, everyone knows the procedure and what's going to happen next.
It just kicks in automatically and everybody knows what they need to do.
Our training tells us that you're in a mayday situation, but human nature tells you, well, maybe I can get out of this by myself.
Rescue 325, Captain, has fallen through. Clear this channel. I think I'm on the second floor and close to the wall. Tower 331 to 331 crew, can you guys go talk around?
The radio silence was extremely important for the simple fact we stayed on the same TAC channel as Captain Brown. He was incredibly calm.
The thing that kept me from being too excited, I think, was memories of a previous, it was a line of duty death. And I heard the radio transmission of that firefighter, and I didn't want that to be the last thing that my wife heard.
It would have been a different situation if Captain Brown was in a panic situation, because then if you hear a firefighter in a panic situation, you start getting maybe somewhat riled, start panicking yourself, and you got to be in control in a situation like that.
I tried to use my light to signal my position, and I radioed to Chief Weeks that that's what I was doing in the hope that they could see that.
We were at the bottom of the fire escape when the mayday call came through, and our first thought was to get up there and get him out of danger. That was my first big fire. It was very poor visibility, and going to the edge and looking for him, lost my coordination as to where I was on the roof and ended up falling over.
Hey, mayday. We have a second firefighter that's fallen over the roof, close to the west side. We've been unable to identify the firefighter at this time.
I heard the mayday, and that was probably the worst point, because now I've made a mistake that's caused somebody else to be in trouble.
With the second firefighter going in, the young fellow from Adelaide, we did have an immediate visual on him, so we acted accordingly. With our RIT training, we decided to do the 38mm loop. With the 38mm hose, we were able to position it. We had 4 to 6 guys on each side of the hose. We dropped it down and we told them to straddle it and grab the hose on both sides with your arms, and we were going to bring them up, and we successfully did. It was textbook.
Number 325 to command. We have Neil Brown. We do have the second firefighter. Second fire confirming the second firefighter is located.
Common sense, chain of command, radio silence came into effect when it came to our training. These are all situations that helped us at the fire.
We just need to really learn more and take that training that we learn for incidents such as this, for a mayday. We need to really always keep it in the forefront that we may need that at any time.
The training I thought I'd never use, I used it twice, and we saved 2 firefighters that day. So pretty important.
The importance of having good training, getting it out to everybody, and having them take it seriously and get on board with it.
And I'm just glad the guys who rescued me knew exactly what to do.
Because it's going to save your life. It saved my life.
At the end of the incident, the IC pulled all personnel from the hazard area and initiated a full PAR. The Yonge Street Fire demonstrates that the IAFF Fireground Survival FGS training program clearly works and saved the lives of 2 of our local 3888 members. If these crews did not have the FGS training, we could have had 2 additional line of duty deaths in Toronto.
On behalf of Local 3888, the Toronto Professional Firefighters Association, we thank you for the opportunity. A little bit of history about the Toronto Fire Services. We're located on the northwest shore of Lake Ontario. We cover 641 square kilometers. And for those who aren't familiar with miles, we cover over 400 square miles. Our population is 2.7 million people, and our daytime population grows to 5.8 million people. We have the 5th largest municipal government in North America. We rank 2nd in North America to high-rise buildings with over 1,800 buildings, and we all know which city has the most. We have 82 fire stations, 144 apparatus, over 3,000 members. Our units moved last year over 270,000 times, and we've responded to 144,000 emergency incidents. Our Health and Safety Committee is structured that we're co-chaired with a labor and both a management individual. We have a terms of reference that we get approval from the Ministry of Labor, which is a body of the Ontario government. In our situation, we amalgamated about 10 years ago. It took 4 years for us to get our terms of reference approved. A couple of critical areas became very important during those discussions. We wanted to participate very early in the investigation of critical injuries in near misses. Later on, you'll see some photos from this incident that were taken as a result of that investigation. Also, we wanted to participate in the report writing, recommendations, and ensure that all our members were well aware. In addition, both the labor and management co-chair, we sit corporately on health and safety to address issues that affect us in the Toronto Fire Service. We started talking fireground survival very early. In approximately 2002 and onward, there was a number of issues that were addressed. Each one of our firefighters was issued their own individual portable radio. Our firefighters every 5 years receive a new bunker suit. Our standards for the care and maintenance exceed the NFPA standard. Subsequently, we now have each firefighter issued 2 pairs of firefighting gloves along with 2 flash hoods, and again, care, cleaning, and maintenance exceeds the standard. When we amalgamated, our administration instituted a pairs-only policy. It caused us some grief on the fire grounds. We fought and we were successful and convinced the administration to move to a crew-based response. We also included post-incident reviews. These have become critical. We investigate our near misses, our maydays that are called. Our documents are published and all our members get to see them. Our incident management system has been implemented. It's ongoing It's an open document. As we learn of the fatality of a firefighter, we review our documents. Our mayday was initiated into our policy very, very early. And as the video spoke about, our firefighter survival and rescue training has been ongoing. One of the things that we've sat down with is we've tried to look at the culture of the fire service within our department. We meet regularly. We have a week where every member, whether you're in fire prevention, the mechanical division, communications, or operations, we sit and we talk about issues within their particular divisions. We have training bulletins put out, and again, all our documents, we ensure that they're published on the web so that our members can see them. And we have a saying, everyone goes home at the end of every shift. At this time, I'd like to call on Captain Neil Brown and Firefighter Cam Whitaker to speak about their experiences.
Good morning, everybody. It goes without saying that I'm very happy that we're here to talk about our experiences this morning, and I've asked Cam to be very close because I have a reputation for falling off things. Just a quick run-through of some of the events of that day. It was a fire that got a lot of coverage in the press in Toronto, and even some of the local entertainment venues got in on the act. This is what the building looked like on Sunday afternoon, and when we arrived there on Monday morning, it was slightly different. We knew we were going to have a long night. It's not so much this fire that is the reason why we're here. We as Chief Weeks said in the video we saw, we had a good handle on this. We arrived, the fire was upgraded quickly to a working fire, a second alarm, and then subsequently a third alarm fire, and it was quickly designated as a defensive fire. It was a building that had been vacant for at least 6 months. There'd been a collapse, which TFS had responded to in the summer of 2010, and the building had been vacant ever since. So when we were dispatched to multiple reports of smoke in the area of Gould and Young, which is where this building is, we kind of knew what it was, and we knew what to expect, and we knew that it was not going to be one where we were looking for people. So Rescue 325, my vehicle, was tasked with checking the exposure to the south, the HMV store, which is a modern structure, 3-story retail space. We took a 38mm handline with us as we were going through, but found it to be clear, and made our way to the back of the building and to a roof hatch, which led us up to a flat tar and gravel roof, a good position for us to prevent the extension of fire into that HMV from the south. So we established 2 65mm hose lines. That's 2.5, seeing as we're doing the metric conversion. And we started rotating crews through there. We had there's a couple more pictures from the street there. It was a cold night, but snow wasn't an issue. The drivers got a little bit icy, but as it was a tar and gravel roof, we had good footing up on the roof. We started to establish some master streams at street level, and in the background there you probably see the metric version of Times Square. That's Dundas Square. We had aerial apparatus set up and operating water tower on the west side to the north of the building, and also had positioned an aerial apparatus on the east. And from our position on the roof of HMV, where you see the arrow, we had it surrounded, and as Chief Weeks said, we had a handle on it. And then things changed a little bit from there. We were on Rescue 325. My crew were on our third rotation to the roof. We were getting close to the end of that task. My bell was ringing, another crew member's bell was ringing, and we were preparing to leave, and I was just directing the relief crew onto the roof. And I made a mistake. I was complacent, and I thought I knew where I was. When I became obscured from the view of the other two crews that I was looking at, I thought, I'm confident. I've been up here. I know where the problem is, and if I take a big step away, I'm going to be moving away from the danger. And as I felt my heel flick the flashing at the corner of the wall, I knew that that wasn't what had happened. A lot of things go through your mind as you're falling what seems to be not very far when you look at those pictures, but it took a long time, and I had a lot of opportunity to feel angry and disappointed in myself and embarrassed. And then I landed. And looking at these pictures afterwards, we saw this little outline of what we think was the cylinder of my SCBA as I landed flat on my back. I wasn't injured. I didn't lose consciousness, and I wasn't in the middle of the fire. There was zero visibility, a lot of smoke, and a lot of debris. Wasn't entirely sure where I was, but I gathered myself, and that was when this training really kicked in, because I was prepared to react. I had something that I could do. There was a set procedure that I could rely on to get me into action. And so I took a deep breath, and not before trying to feel the top of the wall, just to make sure it wasn't 2 or 3 feet and that I could creep back up there and nobody would ever know any different. But when I couldn't reach it, as I say, I took a deep breath and tried to make the call for help as calm as I could make it, so that the rest of the training could kick in and people could start coming to look for me. The acknowledgement of the mayday was instant. I heard the communications acknowledge my mayday. They actually said I'd fallen through the roof, so I got on the radio again and made sure that they knew that I had gone into the fire building. And Chief Weeks immediately contacted me and told me that the RIT team had been deployed and that they were coming for me. Now, to hear his voice on the other end of that radio, we had worked for many years at Station 325 before he was designated as an acting district chief, and I couldn't have had somebody that I respected more to be directing the rescue effort. So he became my focus, the person on the outside who I was going to communicate with. I'd made my way back to the wall below where you see the gentleman standing on the roof there, and decided that was where I was going to wait for them to come for me. My main concern, however, was that my bell was ringing when I went in, and it was starting to slow right down, and slowly it was dinging down to nothing, at which point I had radioed to say that I was low on air, and could they lower me a bottle, or thinking about it now, if they'd been able to do that, they would have been able to pull me out. So I had to come up with another way of lasting until they were able to get to me. So as that last bell on the auto alarm rang, and the next suck I had just brought the facepiece tighter against my face, I decided that I would try to loosen my facepiece and tuck my chin into my chest and see if I could just break the seal a little and suck a little bit of air in from the inside of my coat and inside of my flash hood, and that did actually work. So I felt okay. I'll keep calling Chief Weeks and saying, "Has anybody seen my light?" And just to make sure that they knew that I was viable and that things were going well as could be expected. Then that dreadful moment when I heard a second mayday, and I recognized the voice. It was Mike Rainforth who called it in. It wasn't Cam. And so I thought that he might possibly be unconscious or injured in some way. So I felt that I should try to make contact with him, and so I started to move around in that rubble pile, and I really didn't make much progress. I was a little bit concerned about obviously going in a hole or opening something up and getting fire coming in, but I made an effort to try to find him, and I'm gonna let Cam carry on with his part of the story, and I'll get back to you in a moment.
Thank you, Captain. Myself and my crew were assigned to relieve one of the hose crews on the roof, one of them being Captain Brown's. We were stationed at the bottom of the roof hatch in the HMV building when Captain Brown's mayday had come in. Hearing his mayday, we immediately deployed to the roof, and myself and my crew made our way to the edge of the roof. The visibility was very, very poor due to the heavy smoke. Getting to the edge, it was hard to see the man next beside me, let alone Neil, down somewhere unknown. I went to change positions to see if I could have a better vantage point to locate Captain Brown, and was confident that I was moving alongside the edge of the roof, and turned out to be very wrong. I'd stepped off the roof of HMV and fell over 30 feet down into a foot or two of water and some debris into the neighboring building. From what I understand, it took them about 6 minutes to rescue me. I'd just like to say that I'm very, very proud to work with a team so dedicated to training and their job. Without that being, I wouldn't be up here being able to share my story with you guys.
I'm not sure where these slides are going, but I'm going to say that when I heard that they had Cam, that was very good news. Not only because he was all right and I hadn't caused his first fire to be his last, but I knew that they would probably be coming to me very quickly afterwards. Chief Weeks radioed to say, "There's a hose line coming down the wall, can you find it?" I knew exactly what they were planning to do. This slide shows the plan B that we didn't know about, that they were preparing to breach the wall inside HMV. So when they told me the line was coming down the wall, I still had zero visibility, so I just reached out both arms, and immediately it was there at my left hand. So I grabbed it and started to position myself in the loop. And then I remembered during the training how I'd been popped out of the 6-foot hole that we trained on like a champagne cork, and thought, well, perhaps I'm going to have to adapt this a little bit. So I straddled the hose and locked my ankles, and then locked my arms across my chest and radioed that I was in position, and they heaved me up. And I remember thinking, I'm not letting go of this hose. They're going to have to rip my arms off to get it out of my hands. And sure enough, they tried to rip my arms off to get it out of my hands. And I was quickly hurried over to the roof hatch and taken down, and there were 1 or 2 bear hugs going on, both in the store and later when I was taken to hospital. And Cam and I met pretty much for the first time in the hospital, right? Yeah. And I can't say how grateful I am for the training that we have, for the efforts that have been made by Jeff, who's going to come up here in a moment, and many of you know him because of his great work teaching the Fireground Survival Program. But the IAFF, I'd like to thank them for asking us to come here and share our stories, especially in this amazing city at this time. Thank you.
Okay, again, my name is Jeff Boisseau. I'm an executive officer with 3888, as well as a IFF Fireground Survival Master Instructor. In 2007, we presented at the Redmond. The idea of Fireground Survival, myself and Derek Alconis from LA County. And at 2007, Redmond, we talked about the need for Fireground Survival, and we were coming off an event in Toronto in 2007 where a firefighter had used a technique, or a group of firefighters have used a technique called rapid ladder escape to save themselves from an upper story building, which is part of the Fireground Survival. So it has been used before in our department. In 2008, it was used again. We had an explosion in a hydro vault in the basement of a high-rise. The explosion was so strong it actually lifted a pumper up on street level. We had 3 firefighters in the vicinity of the explosion, and they were obviously blown in multiple directions. 2 of the firefighters, luckily enough, were blown towards the exit, but the captain was blown over a hood of a car, and when he landed, he was unsure where he was. During our post-incident review, he said it was because of his fireground survival training, he knew to stay there, issue a mayday, and within 2 minutes, they came in and got him out. And again, in 2010, we had a wind-driven fire at 200 Wellesley, a 22-story lower-income housing unit in downtown Toronto. It fully charged the building with all 22 stories with smoke, as well as a very serious working fire right in the middle. We had a firefighter who got disoriented and lost and ran out of air. He had issued a mayday, and also one that he couldn't find his captain. RIT teams were deployed, and it was successful, and the firefighters were taken out. So in Toronto alone, we've used Fireground Survival a few times. What were some of our lessons learned? From the Yonge Street fire, part of our job as the association is to review things we can learn from it. First of all was the benefits of the no panic, of being calm. That was something that we stressed in our training, the fact that they did use the technique that we endorse, which is to breathe, organize, and act. Neil said, Captain Brown said he took a deep breath before he started to do anything. And we can see the result of calm had on the entire incident. Also, what did it do? It reinforced our training that we've been fighting for and to maintain since basically 2005 is when we started training. Also, we learned that the more members train, the greater chance of success. Everybody up on that roof had received the training. So therefore, when the Mayday came in and actually we had one of our fireground instructors up on the roof. A suggestion was made on how to get the firefighters out, and they implemented it right away. There wasn't, geez, what is that? They implemented it right away, and it was successful. The more members trained also includes our communication staff. Our communication staff did an excellent job, and they also received Mayday training. Effective command and control, well, it speaks for itself. There was absolutely no question at this incident that Chief Weeks was in charge of this rescue. There was absolutely no question that Captain Barry Locke was in charge of the rescue from the roof. It also helps that he's 50 years old and can bench press 500 pounds. So that might have had something to do with the people were listening to him. Right. One of the things that we realized out of this was who's part of the rescue team when a Mayday goes in. And so what we did learn was everybody became part of the rescue team. Captain Brown was almost out of air. We didn't have a lot of time, so it was executed. So everyone became part of the rescue team. It isn't just RIT. RIT is a component, but that's not the end-all be-all. You have to get something going right away. An interesting thing we did learn was that nobody activated their E-triggers, their man-down buttons. And so we were curious on that, why we did it. And then after reviewing our training, we figured out that when we train a firefighter to put in a Mayday, we give them a sequence of events to follow, which they do on every skill station they do. They do the same Mayday, except for one thing. They don't press the E-trigger on top of the radio because we don't have the capabilities to do that. You press it, it activates all the alarms up in our communication center. So we didn't actually have that. So in this incident, nobody pressed their E-trigger. Why? Because they didn't physically do it in their training. So that is something that we're addressing now as an association and as a training cadre and how we're going to deal with that. But it was interesting that everything they were physically trained to do, they did. The thing we told them to do, they did not. Again, in 2007, there was a good segue with the NIOSH here at the beginning. We sat down, the IFF sat down through our Fireground Survival Committee with Tim Mariner and he gave us this list of recommendations that he says he's been cutting and pasting in the NIOSH report saying this will help firefighters save their lives if they were to do these things. Well, guess what, Tim? It worked. Because as you can tell by their talk, they did just about everything correctly. The IFF, through the Fireground Survivals, developed a self-survival procedure, which is called Grab Lives. Again, just by reading it isn't going to teach you. You have to do it. And that was the success of this also. So what was our lessons learned? That your first time doing a Mayday shouldn't be when you actually have to do it. These guys up here have done several Maydays. And that was all in practice. And that is going to lead to success. Because our big lesson learned was that their training saves firefighters. And that was our ultimate goal from day one. And we did that through the support of our department and through our association. So on behalf of Local 3888, our President Ed Kennedy, our Vice President Damien R. Walsh, and our Secretary-Treasurer Frank Raminiano, who are all at this conference to support us, we thank you for letting us tell our story, and thank you.